channel. My name is Candy and today we're getting some things done on my to-do list. I had hoped to be outside and doing things out there today, but it is 9:30 and it's like hot. It said it feels like 102. Our humidity at least has dropped. This morning when I originally checked the weather, we were at 90% humidity. Now we are at 80% humidity. And it's 9 a.m. It says it's supposed to get up to 94, which is probably gonna put us over 110 in the heat index. So it's just one of those days where I'm not gonna be in the garden with the excessive heat warnings that we have. So it's gonna force me to get some things done inside. So first, put on an apron, even though my tank top I have now is already stained, but I'm gonna try to prolong it a little bit longer. So I know I need to clean out my fridge. It's just time. I need to clean out the food. I need to clean the fridge. I need to slice some bread I cooked. I wanna freeze some eggs. I gotta change one of my kids' sheets. I want to refill containers, and then if I get to it, I want to start planning homeschool, because it's the middle of July and our activities will start at the beginning of August. So it's time for me to get things done. And oh my goodness, when it's hot like this, my kids are inside too, because if it's a heat warning for us, I will have the kids and I will have the dogs, and it just becomes a wild mess here in the house. So I am gonna put on a podcast or something to listen to, and we are gonna get cleaning.
It always seems like taking everything out of the fridge is the hardest part. It's just the starting point, and sometimes it's just such a hassle you don't want to deal with. And why not close the fridge and not look at it and all that jazz? But it comes to a point you just need to take care of it and get your fridge to a point where it's restarted and you can continue living life. And that's definitely what I needed. And I pulled everything out except a few things that I kind of rearranged since I ran out of counter space while pulling everything out. Here's where I took a bucket of hot soapy water and a sponge, and I just scrubbed the heck out of my fridge. It needed it. There was like spilt honey and sticky and who knows what leaked, and I just took my time cleaning it, wiping it down, and this spit shine made the inside of this old fridge shine like new. It was needed.
Every time I pull things out of my fridge, I'm always amazed about how many mason jars and funky things are in there. So I've taken everything out, wiped down everything I can. Now it's time to go through everything, make sure everything is good to go back. And one thing we were blessed with is any leftover food, any food that, you know, just might have gotten away, lost in the fridge somehow, all goes to our chickens, which then supplements our feed, which then makes our feed costs lower, and we get eggs out of it. So that is one blessing about having chickens, and one thing I always love about having chickens, because the amount of food waste we have is so drastically lowered because our chickens get so much scraps. And we eat a lot of meat, veggies, all those scraps go to the chickens. I try not to give them heavy oily things, like, you know, if something's fried, I try not to give them like too much oil stuff. Or if we are, you know, maybe in our 20% of the 80-20 rule where it's not, you know, the best food for us, and maybe it's a little heavily processed, I don't give that to them because I want them to eat the best quality they can as well. But it's not perfect, but I try to be. So I'm not gonna go through all this, figure out what needs to go back. Every time I clean out the fridge though, I do get to the point where I hate these tubs. The very bottom drawer of our fridge broke years and years ago, and to replace it was like over $100. Our fridge is old, and it was kind of, we made the decision we can deal with, you know, a little bit of whatever hacking, and we figured out these little bins from the dollar store have worked really well for us. But they don't last, which is always one downfall. But one day we know we are going to buy a new fridge. It's just not right now. There's a fridge adjusting to not being cold. So I'm gonna go through this, see what can be condensed, what can be taken care of, and then I'm gonna put everything back and figure out what we have from there.
And just like taking everything out, I put everything back. But when I put it back, I try to take care and put things back in a reasonable spot or as practical as it can be. I put things I don't use quite as often towards the back. I put things in certain shelves so my family knows where everything goes all the time. Like milk has a designated spot and leftovers do. Vegetables do. I just try to put everything back into a place where I can find it again. Because let's be honest, sometimes fridge cleanouts need to happen because you don't know where anything is anymore. And I was getting to that point with this fridge, and there is so much in here because we do so much cooking from scratch at home, and I make so much food that we use, so sometimes we have ingredients floating around, but this fridge clean out showed me what I have, so then I can start using things. Like I've already used up that jar of peaches, the 2 little bits of salsa, and there's just so much that I know to use now, and I won't let go to waste because I have done this clean out. And that's one of the reasons I like to do these, because then it just kind of gives you a mental list of what you need to use again.
Fridge is cleaned and everything's put away in it. It looks so nice. Let me show you the fridge. Here's our fridge. Up top we keep fats, garlic, my pickles, and then our random ranch dressing is here. This is normally like major store-bought products. So we have mayo, sour cream, yogurt, cottage cheese, and there are a few leftovers. Down here is larger items. So mustard, mayonnaise, coconut water, some peaches, and then big section cleared out. Here is our meat and like our lunch meat, lunch cheese. Here are where leftovers always go, our veggie drawer, and then here is where our broken baskets are. On the door up top is where I keep butter. Here is condiments that are all in mason jars. And then it goes down for other condiments, salsas, and things like that. Here is where we keep easy snacks. And then down below is where we keep our milk, half and half, and then maple syrup. One of the things I do need to take care of is I have a few eggs. I don't like keeping eggs in the fridge now that we keep them on the counter, but every so often we get dirty ones and those get washed and get in the fridge. So these are gonna be semi-preserved. I need to preserve my lemon juice. I'll show you how I do that. It just keeps it lasting longer. And then because I do buy containers like that, these are some teas. I need to see if they are good. I got a little taste test. And then this is all the food that I have deemed not good. I feel like it looks more like there's more than there is, but it's because a lot of the leftover containers are huge. And there's like some bread that got into the back, and I would normally save it and do a bunch of stuff, but right now I do not have it in me, and that's okay. It's gonna go to the chickens. So now it's time to figure out where all this is gonna go, dump it in my chicken bucket, and then I am going to move on to the next task. So my chicken bucket is full. I'm gonna break this out there, give them a treat, and then come back and do dishes. This is one of those where like a task becomes another task. Now I cleaned out the fridge. I'm gonna get all of these into the dishwasher, hopefully get the dishwasher started just so then that's done. And then next I want to take care of eggs, the lemon juice, and the bread. So let's do that. Preserve lemon juice is super easy. Just take an ice cube tray, the juice, give it a good shake, pour it in the tray, stick it in the freezer somewhere flat. Once it's all frozen, I then label it and put it in a bag. Now that it's all in here, I'm gonna stick it in the freezer. Each ice cube is about 2 tablespoons-ish. So it is a super easy measuring. Okay, there we go. And I like to save these jars by the Santa Cruz Organics. They just have like the perfect grip. We use them for all sorts of things. I use this size for kombucha as I'm processing it. I love them. I'm such a collector of like jars for the kitchen. So I reuse them all sorts of different ways. I am freezing eggs this year, and I've decided to freeze over water glassing or preserving in a big jar with like a lime solution, because it's what works the best for our house. I do not have somewhere cool I can store eggs like that, but I do have freezer space. So I'm going to use breast milk bags. One, because they are made for the freezer. They are made for long term. They come pre-sterilized. And because they will be the perfect size to store an egg or 2. And they will lay flat. I can label them. It will just be perfect. I am going to freeze them in 1 and 2 egg increments because it will be perfect for recipes. I can pull out whatever I need. Most recipes will call for, you know, an egg, 2 egg, 3 egg, and I can figure out how many I need and go from there, defrost them. They work great for baking, great for scrambles and things like that. I personally do not like frozen eggs for scrambled eggs. It's a taste, but I love them in like quiches and things like that. So it's kind of funky, but I feel like, you know, to each their own and your taste buds. So let's get going on some of these.
This project really brought me back to the days of breastfeeding and putting so much milk into bags from both of my children. For my first, I was an overproducer, so I saved so much breast milk, and I spent so much time labeling and freezing and taking care of so many different bags of breast milk. And so here's how I did the eggs. I cracked an egg or 2, I scrambled it in a cup, poured it in my bag, and I labeled it. Eventually I got to the point where I labeled all my bags and then I cracked them, and it just made a better streamlined process. And eventually I found out I didn't need the funnel. I could actually pour it into a bag without making a ginormous mess, but I had the funnel there in case I didn't think I did. And I ended up storing quite a bit of eggs. I figure maybe every few weeks, if I have some excess eggs, I might do this. Another way we use up our eggs is in big breakfast casseroles and quiches. I will make up a bunch of breakfast burritos, or we will just eat eggs literally nonstop for like a week if we have to. We're almost at the point where we get 7 eggs consistently every day, and that's not all my egg layers. We have 15, so we are looking at least 8 more chickens laying here soon. So I will be swimming in eggs if I do get 15 eggs a day here probably within the next month or so. So this is just a way to put some in the freezer and have a little bit more food security in a different form of protein, and something I can use very, very versatilely.
Okay, I've got all my eggs. I ended up doing, let's see, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 21, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I did 28 eggs right now. It's not a lot, but it is quite a bit for, you know, winter baking or stuff like that. We do have new egg layers. A couple of them have started already, so we should have eggs through the winter. And our eggs only take about our chickens take about a month to break because we are in such a warm climate. But this is just like a just in case scenario. And can we appreciate how incredibly yellow our eggs are right now? I love that. I feel like it makes it, I feel like I'm doing something right with my eggs. So all I'm gonna do is I'm gonna find something and I'm gonna lay them flat. I'll probably just stack them all on top of each other. And then once they're all frozen, I can stand them up and it won't all sink to the bottom. If you have stored breast milk before, it's basically the same storage concept. So that's what I'm gonna do. And I like these bags because it really won't take up much space, especially once it's frozen flat. And to defrost them, you can throw them in just like a bowl of water and, you know, pull them out overnight and they will defrost so quickly. So I'm gonna find something flat and get them in my freezer too. So it is time to freeze some bread. I freeze bread pre-sliced. So I make pretty much all of our own bread. This is sourdough sandwich bread. It's the main bread we use for pretty much everything. I will take this recipe and I will make it into rolls. I've made it into, I was gonna say sourdoughs, cinnamon rolls, all sorts of different things. So this recipe is not mine. It is from Kate at Venison for Dinner. VenisonForDinner.com is her website. It's her sourdough master. I will link it down below. You can also go look it up. It is one of the recipes I found when I was starting my sourdough journey 3+ years ago now. And it's the one my family loved the most. So it's the one I continue to make. I make artisan loaves and things like that every so often, but I have a sandwich eating family. I have a big sandwich eating family, and this bread is just so soft and so moist. I mean, look at this. It's just like so squishy and good. And this was baked yesterday. So I will bake it at night and I let it cool overnight in my bread pans. And then I slice it the next day, and I found it keeps just fine. I slice it before I freeze it because I can either pull out a loaf and we have it for a week, or I can just break off a few pieces and stick it back in the freezer. So it's very useful. And I just use a bread knife and I cut it. The slices aren't perfect. They do make like a bread slicer doohickey that you can put it in and get pretty uniform slices. They do make Pullman loaf pans, so your loaf will come out very consistent. There's so many different ways for what you prefer. I just have bread loaf pans and that's what I make them in, and it works fine. Sometimes my bread will rise a little too big and it will pop out of the toaster after we toast our bread. So I will freeze our bread. I will stick it in the fridge or pull it out, and then I just toast it up in our toaster to either defrost it, or sometimes toasted bread is just the way to go, and that's what I do. And so I have 3 loaves going in the freezer, a half a loaf that will go back in the fridge because I actually cut into it last night for dinner. So I will link these bread bags, and they come with little ties. I used to shove everything into Ziploc bags, but it got to a point where things were just so like crammed and shoved, and my husband hated it. And he is, you know, a member of the household. He gets a say in what happens in the kitchen as well. And he voted we do bread bags because it's just what's easier. And 9 times out of 10, he's the one really making all the sandwiches. So I do that. So it just comes in a bag. and you can fit so many different size loaves in here. So I just put it in, and I do try to get as much air out of these as I can. It's not perfect, and it doesn't really matter. So I just twist it, and they do come with little ties. So just twist it on, and it will go in our deep freezer like this, and bread won't last as long. A loaf is about, half a week, maybe a little bit more. Sometimes we don't even make it a full week. So we like sandwiches. So my favorite loaf pans are these, I was gonna say silicone. They are not silicone. They are ceramic. They are actually from the Pampered Chef, and I just love the stoneware by them. I feel like they don't have as much as they used to. I don't like a lot of things from Pampered Chef. I feel like it's very gimmicky, but I love their stoneware pans, and I found they work the best in my oven. I have an electric oven, electric stovetop, and glass can burn really easy in them. I have loaf pans, pizza pan, pizza sheet, pizza. I have the loaf pans, pizza pans, a few different sheets, pan sizes. I love them. So I have a couple of them. They wash it easy. Okay, you can get a flashlight and then you need to put it back. So I love them. If you know someone who has a Pampered Chef party, support them and grab some. They are great. So I have my 3 loaves all done to take to the deep freezer. The rest of this loaf put back in the fridge. And we're gonna check another thing off. I don't think I'm gonna get to homeschool planning before I need to leave, but I have a couple things I can finish. And the first one is refilling my sugar container. I store sugar and a few other things in 5-gallon buckets in my office pantry. But I keep a container. I mean, this is a hefty container. I don't know how big it is. Oh, 159 ounces. That big. I keep that full of sugar in my kitchen. So all I'm gonna do is take scoop by scoop and fill my containers. So I usually do this down on the floor. I usually have a helper of some kind. This one is my shadow. This is Remy, Are you ready, Tin? I'm coming to see. Don't sniff. Get your face too close. So this is just cane sugar. Okay, so this is full. I don't go through sugar super crazy. I buy probably about 50 pounds a year or so. I know that sounds like a lot, but it's really not. If you do a lot of canning, you will use up sugar fairly quickly. But also holiday baking and stuff. And then this just stores down on my island in the corner. And now let's do my sourdough. All I have to do today is feed my sourdough, and then by this evening, I can start another round of bread to have it. So you can see my sourdough is very liquidy right now. All I'm gonna do is add a little water. I am the no measure sourdough type of person. I just do not have the desire to weigh it out by scales and all that. Some people love that method. I personally don't. I'm more of a dump and go and look for consistency. So I dump some water in my starter and I mix the remaining starter with it. And I kind of make it, it always turns into kind of a gross, milky texture. I don't know how else to explain it. It's almost like when you do a cornstarch slurry, something like that. Now I'm going to add in flour, and it's however much flour I need to get the consistency I want. So this is probably gonna be a lot of flour, and I might end up overfilling this. But my plan is to make a big batch of bread, and then I can put some rolls in the freezer, and I want to put them in the freezer before the last rise, so then I can pull them out later and then just let them defrost and do the last rise and then bake them. So it's kind of like having pre-done bread on hand, more or less. It's just meal prepping in a way. So I want mine to be nice and thick, and I get mine mixed pretty well. I do mine pretty dang thick, and I do it pretty thick because I want it to not over-rise before I'm ready for it. With where we are this time of year, it is hot, like I said. So I keep mine like thick and gloopy, like super thick pancake consistency. And I found it works the best for me, especially in the summer. So I'm just going around kind of scraping the sides. And if you want to know more about how I do sourdough, I can share, but there are so many more people who are so knowledgeable about sourdough over me. Kate from Venison for Dinner, like I mentioned, I love her bread recipe. Lisa from Farmhouse on Boone. There's just so many people. Those are the two main ladies I go to, and Jill from the Prairie Homestead, she has some great stuff. I love her cookbook as well. So I take a dry erase marker and I mark my jar. So this is about halfway already. So once it gets to the top, I will have a lot I can make into loaves. So I'm gonna wash my hands. Wash my hands. I'm gonna do some dishes, and then I gotta go put Jack sheets on his bed, and I'm done with my list besides homeschool. And then I gotta make lunch before I gotta turn around and leave. And like that, I am done with everything but one thing on my list, and that is such a good feeling. And it's really taken me about an hour and a half. Okay, almost 2 hours. I've gotten a lot of things done and some things that I've really put off. So thank you for joining me. I do appreciate it. I'm about to now go make a mess in my clean kitchen because that's how it goes. Lunch for everybody, and then I'm gonna go get my hair done because this mop needs it. Thank you for joining me, friends. I really do appreciate it. I'll talk to you next time.